Everyone, welcome back to another Warhammer multiplayer battle. This is a 1v1 where I am Bretonia. My enemy are going to be the dwarves today, and I am bringing the Peasant army because it's a fun army to bring. There's not many variations of the Bretonians you can really work with, and out of the ones, I find the Bretonian Peasant army to be one of the best. Well, not best, I'm sorry. One of the most fun, because there's no Grail Knights, there's no Pegasus Knights, there's no kind of insane flying squad of death with, you know, your two mounted paladins on Pegasus and the king. None of that. Just the very basic of basics peasant army here. We have 3 spearmen, a total of 5 men-at-arms spread across the line. We have 3 peasant bows in this forest. We have the damsel. She is not mounted. The paladin is mounted on a warhorse. And then, of course, King Lewin Leon Kerr. We also have 3 field trebuchets because those are manned by peasants as well. And then in the wings, we have the only Bretonian peasant cav that I can bring. Well, technically I have 2 options, but this is the only melee one. 2 groups of mounted yeomen that started in the forest so the enemy does not see them, and their entire purpose is going to be going up through the forest and trying to hit the Dowie artillery emplacements. Speaking of the Dowie, we have 2 Thunderers, 4 Dwarf Warriors, 2 of which are great weapon versions on the flanks. Then we also have 2 Quarrelers with great weapons. I assume that they did the great weapon version because they were expecting a lot of cav to come their way, and so they wanted to pierce through their armor. Not a bad choice when fighting Bretonia. We also have Ungrim Iron Fist, a Runesmith, a Hammerer, and then 3 Grudge Throwers protected by a group of Slayers. So immediately, all of our artillery starts exchanging fire. Mine is going down on the Dwarven infantry that I'm more worried about. Their Grudge Throwers are going after, I believe, my artillery pieces. Yeah. And that's fine. That's fine. They're not cannons that are shooting at me. They're just slightly inaccurate Grudge Throwers, so I'm just going to take the fire. There's really not much I could do. The reason why I did start in the edge of the forest here is in case there was a lot of Dwarven cannons, I wanted to be able to pull back deeper into the forest and use the trees for cover, and then pull my artillery out later in the fight after the cannons would be assigned to some other unit, because I really want that trebuchet fire to weaken the Dwarven infantry, because I kind of need it. The peasant infantry is not a very strong infantry, so I need all the help I can get in winning the infantry fight. Over here, we're pulling out our peasant bows, protected by the men-at-arms. Our spearmen line is moving forward, and the men-at-arms as well. Then, of course, our heroes are moving in behind them. My mounted yeomen are getting into position to try and get into their back line when it is free. And right now, their grudge throwers are now going to be aiming for my peasant bows, which is probably a good call, because they are a very scary force and easily routable due to their very low leadership. They are cowards. Oh, God. They are big old cowards. We're getting some decent hits. I shifted all my attention to this clump of infantry because, well, it's a giant clump. So even if we miss the desired target, it should hit the others nearby. I'm throwing down some peasant fire onto these Thunderers because I don't want to get in range of the Thunderers and the Quarrelers, so we're just going to hit them over here. My King, I'm going to use the King to try and lure the Slayers away from their Grudge Throwers. So I'm going to be coming around, and then I'm going to be engaging against their front line from behind. Again, hopefully to pull the Slayers away so then my mounted yeoman can get in here into the Grudge Throwers is the plan that is going on over there. We'll see if that actually works. Because mounted yeomen charging into Slayers, that's going to be death for the mounted yeoman. Just give you a view of what's going on with the army, keeping my men-at-arms nearby the peasant bows in case someone charges them. Spearmen are going up. Then here comes the King into the back of the Thunderers. And again, the whole purpose was to try and pull the back line into the front line. Here comes our paladin up here to assist the spearmen. Now, this was not... So, I wanted him to stay up here, but the animation of his attack actually sent him pretty deep. But that did get the Slayers to come over and engage, and that's going to be the sign for my mounted yeoman to come off the hill out of the forest. So that's what they're going to be doing soon. I did have to get the King out of here. I didn't want him to take free damage from these Slayers. Right now, we have a group of Spearmen engaged against a group of Dwarven Warriors with great weapons. I'm going to throw my Paladin in there. And I'm eventually going to be throwing our Spearmen that are free into the battle over here. Mounted Yeoman came down off the hill because the Slayers are no longer in the back. We got a nice charge against the Grudge Throwers over here. This one's going to be going up against the Thunderers and these Grudge Throwers over here. The King is going to be assisting this action in the backfield, while my Spearmen, again, are going to be moving up soon. I'm micromanaging other men-at-arms and bringing back peasant bows that have routed. But my army is going to be engaging in the front line here very soon-ish. Meanwhile, I'm just trying to make sure that my mounted yeomen are not going to be caught by the Slayers that are running after them. I think I get a move order at the very end. There we go. Meanwhile, the king and the other mounted yeomen are doing what they can over here to wrap up the thunderers, the grudge throwers, and any ranged forces that they can get their hands on. Peasant bows are now exchanging fire with the enemy quarrelers, as our spearmen are holding the front line against hammerers and dwarf warriors, both of which are better than spears, but they're going to hold as long as they can. I'm going to back them up here with the men-at-arms. The men-at-arms are not a terrible unit because they are a very high melee defense and their armor piercing. They also have anti-large, which doesn't do much here, but the armor piercing is going to do okay against the dwarf warriors. Paladin is still helping the dwarf warrior, or the spearman over here against those dwarf warriors. The damsel is just casting harmonic convergence on individual units here and there, and also Curse of the Midnight Wind, which I think is what's going on over here. Oh no, this is the Sword of the Corone, dropped from the king. Trying to assist these men-at-arms really quick, but he's going to pull out because again the Slayers are trying to kill him. And as the Slayers over here, our mounted yeomen are free again to go into the back line, so that's what they do. They charge the grudge throwers again, as well as these thunderers, and then the king's going to go over here with his mobility and try and crush the thunderers as well. It's at this point, I think, that the Slayers are going to just say, forget it. They're tired of chasing the king around the battlefield, so I think they engage against our men-at-arms. The Slayers have a lot of high damage, so any hit that connects against the men-at-arms is going to be very strong. Very, very strong. These spearmen over here went around the flanks and engaged these quarrelers in melee. The great weapon of the quarrelers is a little bit of a waste against spearmen. And you can see the mounted yeomen are just killing these grudge throwers. They're very good at that. Mounted yeomen are very good at killing grudge thrower crews, and even slightly thunderers and quarrelers, kinda. Ungrim Iron Fist was holding off this group of men-at-arms, so I'm just going to run past him, because I don't want him to hold me off, so we're going to try and get into these quarrelers. You can see my two peasant bows that remain are just throwing down fire on these Slayers now, because they're pretty susceptible to the peasant bow fire, and they are a unit that scares me, because they can bring down the king if they wrap around his entire model and keep him pinned. Over here, my mounted yeomen are now chasing off the broken units into the forest, trying to make sure that they do not come back, as the king and the spearmen, along with the damsel, are going to go over here and wrap up the remaining crossbowmen, and now they're also fighting against Ungrim. Oh no, I'm sorry, the runesmith. We're targeting the runesmith. Ungrim is still out here. Got my paladin in there as well. And the runesmith, under all of this damage, just instantly crumbles for the most part, and is going to shatter. And at that point, the rest of the army is going to shatter, leaving only these Slayers and Ungrim Iron Fist, who is now charging our peasant bows. He is very angry at them for some reason, probably because they just murdered a lot of his Slayer brothers. And that's fine. I understand why you're mad. But we're going to try and halt this charge with the king himself, who is at full hit points because he has regeneration. He has taken a little damage here and there, but for the most part, I've kept him safe away from the Slayers and the groups that can really hurt him. Again, just using the mobility of the hippogriff that he is riding, Beaquis, I think his name is. And with the king in here, man-at-arms is going to be coming in here. The dwarf leader, Ungrim Iron Fist, does not have much of a chance. We also have Harmonic Convergence cast by the damsel, so you can see the melee attack and defense of an already very strong king. Lewin is just going to make this fight go even shorter. And the rest of the army is shattered. They are not coming back. We've just finished up the group of Slayers that was dealing with my men-at-arms. And now I think I'm casting a Curse of the Big Midnight Moon. I think that's what I'm doing here. Yeah. So now Ungrim's stats are lowered, and he unfortunately does not have much of a chance in this battle. So the army that my opponent brought, I think would have been a lot better if I went with a more standard, like, cav-heavy build. Because you can see that's what their focus was. That's why they brought the Dwarf Warriors with great weapons. That's why they brought the great weapon versions of the Quarrelers. Because you don't need great weapon Quarrelers against Bretonnian peasant armies. But, like, not many people bring peasant armies because they're peasants. And they're not really the strong thing of the Bretonnians. The strong part of the Bretonnians is going to be their mobility with their flying Pegasus Knights, their flying Death Squad of the King and the two Paladins, and then their Grail Knights, and even Knights of the Realm to a lesser extent. We have the King netting 36 kills. He was just all over the field, just being a nuisance as the King is. Paladin getting 29 kills against mostly Dwarf Warriors and Quarrelers. The Spearman line held really well. Really well. If they're fighting against the Longbeards, they would have crumbled a lot quicker, I think. But still, like, Dwarf Warriors are better for the most part than Spearman at Arms, but I am so proud in the Spearman at Arms holding the line as long as he did. Man at Arms did really well. Again, they do have that armor piercing damage that does help them deal with the Dwarven high armor. The Peasant Bows, this one did get shut down, which was a good call from my opponent. The other two did okay. The only thing they really did is some hit point damage here and there, but the only like kills they got were against the Slayers, which is still very valuable. Slayers are a very scary unit. The Mounted Yeomen, they are very good at shutting down nearly defenseless Grudge Thrower crews, so that's something. I still think the Mounted Yeomen are kind of, they are really cheap though, so you get what you paid for. But in this fight, they did really well. The Slayers, I wasn't letting them envelop the Mounted Yeomen, so I was running them out, running them back in. And they actually did really well. With the cycle charges, they managed to shut down the gun crew, the Thunderers, and the Grudge Throwers. So I'm very impressed with the performance of them. And then the Field Trebuchets, they did okay. They were allowed to fire the entire game, and they got some kills. They got some hit point damage here and there. Ungrim Iron Fist, 53 kills. Whew. And I think most of that was against my Men-at-Arms group, this one right here, because they had 0 kills. They were ran off by Ungrim. The Runesmith, 0 kills, but the buffs are still pretty valuable. The Dwarf Warrior line, they kind of got crushed there. The Slayers did really well. The Hammerers, their full potential wasn't really realized, but not to any fault of my opponent. It's just because they are very geared towards killing high armored units. Like if I had Grail Knights that I had thrown in there, the Hammers could like tear them down really quickly. But the only like main target for them is going to be the King and the Paladin, but both of which are very mobile, so it's going to be hard for the Hammers to get them. So unfortunately in this matchup, they were a little bit wasted against my Bretonnian Peasants. But again, at no fault to my opponent, it's not very often you see just a peasant army. So let's see, Dwarf Warrior or Dwarf Quarrelers were great weapons. They kind of got shut down, but did some hit point damage before that. The Thunderers did not really get to do much. We really crushed them in the beginning. But in the short time that the Grudge Throwers were allowed to fire, they racked up a lot of kills, especially against my Peasant Bowmen, which was a really good call. So I hope you enjoyed that battle, everybody. Let's watch that again with just the cinematic version, where I will not do nearly as much talking.
Bretonia! Crush them all! Protect Bretonia!
Oh, those poor Men-at-Arms.
The faster we kill them, the quicker we can loot their bodies. Aim at their beards.
Woo!
With his will.
Oh, jeez. Oh, those poor people.
Bows out. Daggers ready.
And then right into the loving arms of the mounted yeoman. That was not a very impressive looking charge. That is, oh god! That's a tall dwarf. That's the harmonic convergence being cast in these men-at-arms, trying to hold off the Slayers for as long as possible. I love the little jump kicks.
Our plans will shoot us!
And then, like, all my army just starts piling in these poor Slayers. And then poor Ungrim falls. Again, hope you enjoyed, everybody. I will see you all next time. Have a good day.